Imagine a place called Cold Harbor. It doesn't sound like much, just a simple crossroads. All around it, you see shallow ravines, some scattered woods, and wide open fields. If you didn't know better, you'd think it was peaceful, almost harmless. But for General Robert E. Lee and his commanders, this unassuming landscape was a masterpiece of military potential. They saw something different. They saw a fortress. Every little hill, every dip in the ground, was turned into a defensive advantage. They dug rifle pits that overlapped, creating a web of deadly fire. The trenches weren't just straight lines. They converged at sharp angles, ensuring that any attacking force would be caught in a crossfire from multiple directions. Artillery was carefully placed on high ground, commanding every possible approach. The land itself had been transformed into a weapon, a silent, waiting killer. By the summer of 1864, the American Civil War was grinding into its fourth brutal year. The nation was exhausted, but the end was still not in sight. On the Union side, a new commander was in charge, Ulysses S. Grant. He was a man of iron will, determined to finally crush Lee's legendary Army of Northern Virginia and end the war once and for all. To do this, Grant launched what became known as the Overland Campaign. This wasn't just one battle, but a relentless series of bloody engagements. The plan was simple and brutal: keep attacking, keep moving, and never give Lee's army a moment to rest or recover. Grant understood the grim arithmetic of war. He was a firm believer in attrition. He knew that the industrial North, with its massive population and resources, could replace its soldiers and supplies. The agricultural South, however, could not. Every loss the Confederacy suffered was a step closer to its collapse. So, the Union Army, bruised but not broken from battles of the Wilderness and Spotsylvania, marched towards Cold Harbor. Grant's commanders on the ground, men like General Horatio Wright and General Ambrose Burnside, faced the daunting task of figuring out how to break Lee's new defensive line. They studied the terrain, tried to align their units for a coordinated attack, and struggled with the timing. But the army was exhausted. Men had been marching and fighting for weeks with little sleep. This fatigue, combined with the immense pressure from Washington to secure a decisive victory, created a perfect storm for confusion and miscommunication. Orders were misunderstood or arrived too late. Different corps failed to coordinate their movements. A sense of fatalism began to creep into the ranks. The Union soldiers could see the Confederate earthworks, and they knew what was waiting for them. They had seen it before. Every decision made in the Union command tents, every order whispered down the line, carried a weight that was almost unimaginable. These weren't just strategic moves on a map. They were choices that would be measured in thousands of human lives. The stage was set for one of the most lopsided and tragic confrontations of the entire war. The name Cold Harbor would soon become synonymous with futile, bloody sacrifice. What happened next would shock the nation and leave a permanent scar on the memory of the Civil War. It was a stark reminder that, in war, even the most determined plans can unravel in the face of a well-prepared enemy and the grim realities of the battlefield. Imagine this: Virginia. Just before dawn on June 3, 1864, the fields are shrouded in mist and a strange, heavy silence. Tens of thousands of Union soldiers are waiting. They lie low, a sea of blue uniforms blending into the damp earth. Some men are polishing their rifles one last time. Others dig their boots into the soft ground, trying to find a solid purchase for what's to come. In the dim pre-dawn light, you can just make out their faces. Young, old, scared, determined. Many clutch letters in their pockets. Letters written to loved ones. Letters they secretly fear will never be sent. The air is so still, it feels wrong. Even the birds are quiet. It's the calm before a storm of unimaginable fury. Across the open ground, hidden behind a formidable network of trenches and earthworks, their opponents wait. The Confederate soldiers are dug in, patient and ready. Their fortifications zigzag across the ridges, a deadly maze of dirt and logs. Cannons are perfectly positioned, their barrels aimed with lethal precision at the fields below. They know the enemy is coming, is about to become a chapter in history written in blood and iron. This isn't just another battle. It's the culmination of weeks of relentless fighting, a brutal slugging match between two determined armies. For the Union soldiers, it's a desperate gamble. For the Confederates, it's a defense of their last line. At exactly 4:30 in the morning, the signal is given. A bugle call cuts through the quiet. Instantly, the rolling fields come alive. The Union soldiers rise as one, a massive wave of humanity surging forward. They advance into the morning mist, which cloaks their initial movements but offers no real protection. They are marching into a perfectly prepared trap. The moment they emerge from the fog, the Confederate line erupts. A solid wall of fire and lead smashes into the advancing ranks. It's a deafening roar, a terrifying mix of thousands of rifles firing at once. The deep boom of cannons, and the high-pitched scream of shrapnel tearing through the air. The pre-dawn silence is shattered, replaced by the symphony of industrial-scale killing. The landscape itself becomes an enemy. The terrain is broken by ravines and creeks, which naturally funnel the charging Union soldiers into deadly kill zones. The Confederate artillery has every approach zeroed in. It's a meat grinder. The first wave of Union attackers is cut to pieces. Men fall by the dozen, then by the hundred. Officers on horseback shout orders that are lost in the noise, trying desperately to keep their lines from breaking. They are shot from their saddles. Flag bearers become immediate targets. A regimental flag falls, is quickly picked up by another soldier, and then falls again as he too is struck down. The field becomes a scene of utter chaos and carnage. In the midst of the horror, you hear the cries of the wounded. Men scream for their comrades, for water, for a medic, for mercy. For so many, help will never arrive. The assault lasts for what feels like an eternity, but in reality, the worst of the slaughter is over in less than an hour. The courage of the Union soldiers is incredible, but courage alone cannot break through fortified earthworks defended by veteran troops. They charge again and again, but the result is the same. The ground in front of the Confederate trenches is carpeted with the dead and dying. It's a horrifying testament to the futility of the attack. By the time the sun is fully up, the fields are silent once more, save for the moans of the wounded. The Union assault has been a catastrophic failure. Thousands of men were lost in a matter of minutes. It was a brutal, bloody lesson in the changing nature of warfare, where modern rifles and defensive fortifications gave defenders an overwhelming advantage. Cold Harbor would become a name synonymous with senseless slaughter, a dark stain on a war already filled with tragedy. It was a moment that haunted the generals who ordered it and the men who survived it for the rest of their lives. A chilling reminder of the terrible cost of war. This wasn't a battle of grand cavalry charges or glorious maneuvers. This was a grim, methodical descent into the horrors of modern warfare, fought from the mud and dirt of entrenchments. Imagine the scene from the Confederate lines. General Robert E. Lee's men are dug in. They aren't just hiding. They've engineered a killing field. The earth itself has been turned into a weapon. From these protective trenches, they can fire with a devastating, almost mechanical efficiency. Every Union advance is met with a wall of lead. For commanders like Lee and General Richard S. Ewell, the battle is a cold calculation. They're not seeking a heroic clash. They're exploiting every single advantage the terrain and their fortifications offer. From this perspective, victory isn't a moment of exhilaration. It's a somber relief, born from survival. Watching wave after wave of men charge towards you, only to be cut down, takes a heavy psychological toll. Even in triumph, the sight of such carnage is a burden. It's here, in the trenches of Cold Harbor, that we see the raw human element of strategy. It's not just about giving orders from a distant command tent. It's about the nerves, the resolve, and the sheer terror of the men holding the line, knowing that another assault is just moments away. Now let's shift our perspective to the other side, to the Union soldiers ordered to attack these impregnable positions. For them, the assault on Cold Harbor is nothing short of demoralizing. Imagine being told to run across an open field, directly into a storm of rifle and cannon fire, with no cover and no hope of reaching the enemy. Confusion reigns. Orders get lost in the chaos and noise. Officers struggle to maintain control as their units are torn apart. The soldiers feel trapped, caught between the orders pushing them forward and the certainty of death that awaits. Exhaustion, both physical and mental, sets in with terrifying speed. The relentless losses strip away morale, replacing it with a sense of futility. This is where the grim realization dawns. The battlefield is an unforgiving meat grinder. Individual courage, no matter how great, is no substitute for a sound strategy. The men of the Union Army learned this lesson in the most horrific way possible at Cold Harbor. While the Confederates were victorious in a tactical sense, this success came at a steep price. Holding a defensive line against repeated, desperate assaults is a unique kind of hell. The tension is constant, a knot in your stomach that never loosens. The sight of death is everywhere, not just the enemy but your comrades falling beside you. The psychological weight of defending your position, knowing that thousands of men are trying to kill you, is immense. There's no true rest, no moment of peace. Every lull in the fighting is just a prelude to the next attack. This constant state of high alert grinds men down. The victory at Cold Harbor wasn't a celebration for the South. It was a testament to their resilience, but it also carved deep scars into the psyche of every soldier who survived it. They had held the line, but the cost was measured in more than just ammunition. It was measured in shattered nerves and haunting memories. Cold Harbor stands as a brutal monument to a turning point in warfare. It demonstrated the lethal power of trench defenses and foreshadowed the stalemates of World War I, more importantly. It stripped away any remaining romance of war, revealing it as a grim, industrialized process of human destruction. For both sides, it was a place of profound suffering, where victory and defeat were almost indistinguishable in their shared horror. It reminds us that behind the grand strategies and famous generals are ordinary people enduring the unthinkable. A battlefield so catastrophic, it earns a general the nickname the Butcher. When the smoke began to clear, the scale of the disaster was horrifying. The Union Army suffered approximately 7,000 casualties in a single morning, most within the first hour. It was a bloodbath of shocking proportions. One veteran later recalled that it felt like a bloody, dismal, tragic failure. The Confederate losses, while still significant, were far fewer, perhaps around 1,500, a testament to the power of their defensive positions. 4 days after the assault, the battlefield became a nightmarish no man's land. Thousands of wounded Union soldiers were trapped between the lines, under the hot Virginia sun, their cries for water and help echoing across the fields. Due to a tragic delay in arranging a truce, many of these men died where they lay, their suffering prolonged for days. The stench of death hung heavy in the air as soldiers remained unburied. The ground was slick with blood, the earth scorched and torn by cannon fire. It was a scene of unparalleled human suffering. News of the slaughter sent shockwaves through the North. The public, already weary of the war's mounting death toll, reacted with outrage and grief. Newspapers ran headlines decrying the senseless loss of life. Critics of Grant, who had already presided over bloody battles at the Wilderness and Spotsylvania, now had their most damning evidence. They labeled him the Butcher, a commander who was callously throwing away the lives of his men in a brutal war of attrition. President Lincoln's administration faced immense political pressure, and the morale of the nation faltered. But beyond the immediate horror, Cold Harbor was a grim look into the future of warfare. It marked a pivotal shift from the open field battles of the early war to the brutal reality of trench combat. The engagement demonstrated the immense advantage of well-prepared defensive works against a frontal assault, a lesson that would be tragically relearned on the battlefields of World War I 50 years later. Military historians study Cold Harbor as a stark example of tactical failure, but also as a turning point in military strategy. It underscored the brutal math of attritional warfare, where victory is measured not by clever maneuvers, but by the ability to sustain and inflict unbearable losses. Today, the Cold Harbor battlefield is a quiet, peaceful park, where cannons roared, birds now sing. Lush green grass covers the fields where so many men fell. Visitors can walk along the preserved trenches, tracing the lines that decided the fate of thousands. The serenity of the landscape stands in stark contrast to the violence of its past. But that history is indelible, a permanent scar on the American soul. Cold Harbor serves as a haunting reminder of the immense sacrifice of the soldiers, their courage in the face of impossible odds, and the profound lasting costs of war that ripple through generations. It teaches us that the true measure of a battle is not in its strategic outcome, but in the human consequence. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of one of history's most pivotal and tragic moments. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth stories that reveal the human side of history and the events that have shaped our world. We'll see you next time.